Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth! Just set you free! You can't handle the truth! We came, we saw, we kicked its ass!
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast, and thank you for joining us on this special episode as we review The Batman. We're going to go into full spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the film, you may want to park it here and then come back and listen to it a little bit later on, because we're going to be talking all the characters, performances, plot lines, Easter eggs, and stuff like that. What we will do is we're going to talk about Batman more in a couple of future episodes. We're going to do sort of like ranking of the Batman movies and then the future of the Batman and kind of what we want to see in future movies, and like fan cast characters and stuff like that. So, but this is all about this movie and we're going to review it. So yeah, we'll go around the room, just sort of like get initial reactions about what our, perceptions were before we went in, what we were hoping for, and then, how we felt coming out. And then we'll start diving into the storyline and picking out bits and pieces. So, I don't think we can start anywhere else but Neil. So, Neil is our resident DC guru. So, Neil, what was your thoughts going into the movie and then coming out of the movie?
Going into the movie, I was skeptical at best. At best, I was skeptical because for one, I was disappointed because I really, really desperately wanted to see Ben Affleck's The Batman. That's what I wanted to see. Ben Affleck, Batman versus Deathstroke, everything that was going to happen in that. I really, really wanted to see that. I still do want to see that.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed. I knew I wasn't going to see that. And I was skeptical because even though no one involved in the project has a bad history or bad reputation, I was just like, are you the guys who are going to make Batman? Because, it's sort of like, I look at the Joker, it was like, none of the people involved are terrible at their job. They're all amazing at their job. But again, it's like, are you the people who are going to make the Joker? And, I didn't really like the Joker. It took a lot for me. I'm not a big fan of the Joker film. So I was carrying a lot of that weight. Then I saw the film, and I was like, Matt Reeves, sir, I apologize, right? I apologize. I didn't say anything bad about him, but in my head I was thinking, like, you the guy. I apologize for my doubt. Because this movie was good. This movie was damn good. I mean, if we're gonna, are we gonna rate this at the end?
We'll rate it at the end. Yeah.
All right. Then I ain't gonna say, but this movie was good.
It was good. Yeah. Okay. So actually, I didn't even mention who we've got on our podcast today. So we have Neil, obviously. We have Alex, Lee, and I think Sacha maybe just got out of bed and joined us. How you doing, Sacha? He's having his breakfast. He's having his breakfast and a cup of tea, so he'll catch up. Okay, so just to clarify as well, so we went to see it Thursday night. I went with Alex, Lee, Sacha, and our other friend Richard. Neil saw it the Friday night.
Yeah, I saw it Friday.
Is that Neil? Right, okay, cool. So that's why we wanted to wait until Sunday so everyone had a chance to see it. Alex has seen it twice already, so to give everyone an opportunity. So, right, Alex, what was your thoughts going in and then coming
out? Like Neil, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. So I was also like a bit gutted when initially that obviously wasn't going to happen. At first it was like, okay, well, he's going to do it, but he's not going to direct. And then it's like, okay, fine, and then he's not going to even do it at all. So that was a bit of a disappointment. The one thing obviously about Ben Affleck being Batman is that being a bit older, you do have that sort of missed opportunity of a lot of stories that are kind of hinted at in Batman v Superman that you don't get to see. So when they were then going to talk about going like younger, I was like, okay, cool, we can sort of like refresh, and we've got the opportunity to tell those stories. I was pretty excited because everyone was bitching about Patterson because they've only seen Twilight, but obviously I've seen him in a couple of other things and can know what he can do. So I was actually quite excited to see what he was going to do with it. Again, with Matt Reeves, I love the Apes trilogy. I didn't do the first one, but I love the Apes trilogy, so I was really sort of like, okay, this could be really good. Then obviously didn't read any sort of like spoiler reviews or nothing, but obviously some of the early reviews that had come out of people like really loving it, my expectations were then like even higher. So I was going into this, and as you can see, I'm a big Batman fan. So Batman is my guy. So I was really excited going into this, and my expectations were met. Obviously, there was all the rumors of it's got like a Seven vibe, sort of Zodiac vibe. It's going to be that detective sort of story that we haven't really seen in live action, and it hit all the notes for me. So I came out absolutely loving it.
Okay, cool. Lee, what about you? Going and coming out, what's your expectations and your reactions?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Batman is that, it's obviously, I mean, I've not really read comics. Obviously, I've really only seen the feature films. I might have seen a few of the cartoons a long time ago. There seems to be lots of different variations in Batman. Yeah. It's just I'm not too sure at the moment, where this Batman is. I know it's meant to be year 2, so it's difficult for me. I don't get me wrong; it is a great film. I loved it, and it was better than probably I thought going into it. I'm not a big Robert Pattinson fan, so when he was cast for it, I was like, I couldn't really see it, mainly because of, I suppose, maybe his sort of physique. And maybe some of his own sort of personality. I was like, but no, he did a good job. But for me, I'm still not convinced totally from that performance. I think that there was a lot that supported him. I think the other cast members were really good. Colin Farrell was just, oh my God, he was amazing. He done such a great job, and I think it's more to come from him. I think he's going to just, and everyone wants to see Batman, and he was playing Batman for most of the film, so he's covered. He's, his conversations and stuff are limited. You know what I mean? And the lighting, the cinematography, the music is just, I can't stop listening to the soundtrack. I mean, I worked out to the soundtrack today. It was just So I think all of the combination, the Batmobile was just, that fired up. It was just, I think there was a lot to support him. But take nothing away from him. I mean, you can tell he's a great actor because he's took it on and he's done a good job with it. But for me, I still don't know if he's my Batman. And there was a few other things, but overall, it was a great film. And I think it's good to see that a lot of people are loving it, because the worst thing would have been for it to be like a flop and everyone coming out saying, no, I don't think we could handle that. So, no, it's really good that it's doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I will definitely go and see it again.
I mean, look, we're all comic book and movie fans, and it's a case of we never want to see any franchise fail. We don't want to see a movie, a bad movie. We want to go in and enjoy ourselves and just be a great representation of the characters. And we've had a lot of Batman over the years. And same as Alex and Neil, I think that, when the casting of Ben Affleck first came around, it was a case of maybe, I'm not too sure. I can't see it. But his portrayal of Batman was fantastic. And, say what you would about the movies, Batman versus Superman is not a great movie. But, particularly Zack Snyder's Justice League, that version, just fantastic. So, he was going to write the movie, star in the movie, direct the movie. It's all going to be him. It's going to be Deathstroke. It's going to feature quite a bit of Arkham about it. And Matt Reeves, when he said himself, when he read the script, he said it was a good script. He said it was quite Bond-esque, James Bond-esque. He said it was quite full on, but it wasn't personal enough for him. So he wanted to make a very personal story. And, that's kind of what he pitched to the studios. Because I think there was a period, although very brief, where when Matt Reeves was directing, Ben Affleck still might have been starring in it.
I think so. For
a brief period. And then, obviously, his Ben Affleck's experience and everything that happened with Justice League, I think the studio was very much a case of, yeah, we're not doing that Batman anymore. We want to, you know, we're going to go separate ways, and that's to Matt Reeves because he wanted to do his own thing anyway. So yeah, Robert Pattinson. Again, you know, so I knew him mostly from Twilight, and I saw those films as a matter of fact because I worked at the cinema when they came out. And, you know, I've seen him in a few things, but unlike Sacha, who's probably seen him in a lot more things since then, you know, Sacha was always very much, he's a great actor. You know, there's very much a case of him doing it. So Sacha actually gave me a lot more faith in him because of my feedback from Sacha, and I know what Sacha like. We're on the same page for a lot of things. But yeah, for me, one of them was like the physique, the presence, the voice. You know, how's he going to look? I didn't necessarily have a problem with him being Bruce Wayne, but I wasn't sure about his Batman. When that first trailer dropped, most of my reservations were gone. When he stepped out in that suit, and then that scene where he's pounding on the guy, I was like, wow, okay, this looks good. So yeah, I think with the cast, my expectations were high. And even though my expectations are high, they were superseded by the movie. I really, really like this movie. I just thought the whole world that they built was fantastic. I love the fact that it was a sort of like very film noir with a voiceover by our Bruce Wayne Batman. The costumes, the designs, the lighting, you know, cinematography, the score, just everything had a purpose. Everything drove it forward. And yeah, we'll go into some more detail, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. There was never a point where I looked at my watch. There was never a point where I'm like, this is dragging. The pacing was good. Maybe a little bit of a pacing issue at the end, and I'll come into a little bit more of that as we go through it. But yeah, overall, absolutely fantastic for me. So yeah, Sacha, you in a position to speak now? As he goes off mute. All right, cool. So Sacha, what was your expectations going into the movie, and then how did you feel coming out? Oh, hang on, we got some technical issues. We can't hear you, Sash. Get your headphones plugged into the right place.
But is his mic?
Yeah, he's not on mute, but...
The Riddler's got him.
All right, I'll carry on talking while Sacha sorts that out. So, if you're watching the video, it's just like looking everywhere, trying to figure out where is it going wrong. He might leave the room, come back, I don't know. But so like I said, the running time wasn't affected. And what I think got me most about this portrayal of Pattinson as Batman was what he was able to do performance-wise just by his eyes. The way his eyes move in that mask, and it very much reminded me of sort of like the Batman animated series, where it was like black mask, white eyes, white of his eyes, and the way that he could look and stare down was just fantastic. It's something I'm going to look more at when I watch it for a second time, but that is what gave the presence for me. A lot of the scenes, and the gravitas was the way he looked sideways, just up, and you see the big whites of the eyes and stuff like that. It was really, really powerful. So
you can also sort of almost see like the wheels of his mind turning. He's like say he's just like staring, or he's looking at the floor at like evidence or whatever, and he's not really doing. You know, it doesn't look like he's doing much, but you can almost see as if, you know, the cogs are turning and he's trying to put pieces together and that kind of stuff, just with a look at the eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sacha, you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Hear me now.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay. So Sacha, what were your expectations going into the Batman, and how did you feel coming out of it?
It was good, wasn't it? It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought I did feel that it did have some pacing issues towards the end. I'll go into that probably a bit later, but overall, solid movie. Really, really enjoyed it. Got my thoughts going in. It kind of a roller coaster, really. Obviously, there was the Ben Affleck situation. I really, like Ken said, whenever they mention a Batman, etc., or whenever they do casting stuff, we always known to react. Now, here's the thing with the Ben Affleck situation. I was like, interesting choice, but by that point, I'd kind of stopped reacting to stuff like that, mainly because of the Heath Ledger situation. When Jack Nicholson set the bar, everyone was like, fucking the Knight's Tale guy, fuck that guy. And then you watch The Dark Knight and he kind of blew everyone away, you know? And even I was like, fuck Heath Ledger, you know what I mean? Like, I like Batman Begins, but that's some crazy talk, you know? Because Jack Nicholson was like, you know, our only example of what a live action Joker could be, you know? He was kind of like the standard of like, no one else, you know? So when it came to Ben Affleck, I was like, interesting. Not anyone I would have put into a conversation, but let's see how he does. And, you know, BVS may have not have been the greatest of films, but you know what? Coming out of that, I was like, Affleck was good. You know, I liked Affleck. And I was excited to see what he would have done as a standalone film. And then, you know, through the interwebs and stuff, you kind of find out that it was going to have Deathstroke and all these villains that Batman fans have really wanted to see for a long time, rather than the classic rogues. I was balls deep into that idea of that movie, and I was really looking forward to it coming out. I remember talking about it on Zito's Gang with Neil, and we were both heartbroken. We were pissed. We were like, fuck Matt Reeves and his movie, you know, because like. It's like, why do another fucking interpretation, etc. But you know what? When they got round to announcing Patterson, I was like, yes, I know, I get it. Twilight, Sparkly Vampire, I get it. But you know what? I ain't seen those shit movies. No, not once have I felt the urge to sit down and watch Twilight. Okay, I knew from the trailer. Brighter people went and saw it before me. I took the feedback. I was like, I ain't spending 2 hours in no theatre watching that shit.
It's not a franchise for you.
Vampires to me is Blade, The Lost Boys, Blade 2, more Blade. You know what I mean? Like that's my kind of vampire. You know, not this not whatever that is. You know, but you know, Robert Pattinson. I seen him in what's that? The Rover, The Lighthouse, High Times, Good Times. Guy has a lot of times, man. You know, I've seen him in a lot of other films, a lot of independent films, usually around Oscar season, where he's like a side guy, or you know, an independent film like The Rover with Guy Pearce, fucking fantastic film. And all I saw was a fantastic actor. All I saw was a guy that can act. So I was like, well, what's the fucking Twilight shit? And then all it was he was just a normal actor. They offered him Twilight. He just took it because it was a day job, and then it became a franchise. And he himself has even been like, "Oh God, these films are terrible, but they're paying me shitloads of money." And then if you look at his career after that, he's always picked the independent films, and always really good roles. So when they said he's Batman, it's like, of course he's fucking Batman. Look at Christian Bale; it's the same kind of actor from the same kind of cloth. And I was like,
character
okay.
actor. Yeah,
I don't have a problem with him. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I'm not too sure about that. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I couldn't see it personally. I was like, all right, but, you know, again, with good faith, we'll see. Because part of me was disinterested in the project, not because of the talent, mainly because of the backstory of what we could have got.
Mm-hmm.
And then that first trailer came. I was sold straight away. I was like, damn, if that's the Batman, I want to see more of that. And then I probably watched the first 2 trailers. I was like, I'm in. All right, I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't need to see no more. And then I saw the film. Oh, my gosh, man. Oh, my gosh. It is so good. It is so, so good. Beyond expectations for me. Is it my favourite Batman film? No, but it's high up there. It's definitely high up there. It's high bar for me. It's in my top 3, hands down.
Yeah, we're going to do a Batman ranking episode shortly, so that'll definitely be part of that conversation. So coming back to this movie, so there's actually a prequel novel available to read and listen to, which is based in the same universe, and it kind of gives you a bit more of a background. So it tells you obviously about Bruce as he was younger, and it leads into some of the stuff that happens in the film. So what happens in the book is that Thomas Wayne is running for mayor and stuff like that, and obviously you have the whole orphanage thing. So what they actually do is they actually move out of Wayne Manor and make that an orphanage, and then they move into Wayne Tower, as part of the novel. So what then is the Riddler's character, Paul Dano's Riddler character? Obviously, he's in that orphanage in Wayne Manor, so he sees how they used to live. There's like a portrait of the family and Bruce that he sees every day, so it's that constant reminder. So that leads a lot into the psychology of him and why he has it out so much for Bruce Wayne and the Waynes basically in the movie. So Bruce Wayne, obviously parents die, which is great that we didn't have to have any flashbacks either in this movie, because even Batman vs Superman, we had to have a flashback of his parents being killed. It's just like, no, we know where he is, we know how he got here. This is his second year. And it talks about very much that he was he got into trouble at school. He started failing. But he started building his car when he was 16 years of age, which is the Batmobile. It turns out to be. He didn't build it to be the Batmobile. He just bought an old car and just started building it up. But he was very much into street racing. So that's a big part of the novel as well, which leads into the fact of how well he can drive in this movie. And it touches on like his first couple of cases, his first kind of case as well. It name drops Metropolis, it name drops LexCorp in the novels as well. So there's quite a bit in there which kind of feeds into the story, which is really cool, and it gives you a bit more of the history. It kind of alternates its time between the Riddler and Batman in terms of the novel. But so opening scene, obviously we see the Riddler. I really liked the take of this Riddler. The costume design, I think a lot of that was influenced by Paul Dano himself, and the whole cling film wrap thing I thought was fantastic for a serial killer. The whole point that he wasn't going to leave any DNA around to be able to find. It's just those little attentions to details. And it's very much lent itself into a detective movie. I did feel there was quite a lot of similar beats to The Dark Knight in terms of Gordon's obviously not commissioner, he's just a detective. Some high-ranking people are getting killed by this guy. The Joker used social media and a TV appearance to promote himself, same as the Riddler did. And people are sort of like dying around him. So I thought there was actually quite similar beats, but at the end of the day, it's Batman, and these are the traits from the comics. You're going to have to revisit these things because we're retelling a different story. But I really like the relationship between Batman and Gordon. It's built on respect. They trust each other. What were your guys' thoughts on that relationship?
Yeah, totally agree. It was one of the best parts of the movie for me, because as much as I like Gary Oldman and Christian Bale, that didn't get sort of like to this level of their relationship. It was all, it was just like, they're meeting up, discussing the case. Batman goes off and does his thing, and sort of Gordon goes off and does his thing. This is literally they're like, take Pattinson out of the suit, and they're two cop partners.
Yeah, it's like a buddy cop movie.
Working the case. It's Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt and Seven. Working the case. And I absolutely love that. And even to the point where I think Batman at some point says, "Oh, do you trust?" And whoever it is they're talking about, because obviously all the corruption stuff. He goes, "No, I trust you." And it's like, that's it. It's just them two. They're the only two that they know they can trust each other. Everyone else is suspect.
Yeah.
And they're working the case, and it was awesome. And Jeffrey Wright is always great. So.
Yeah, he was very good as Gordon, wasn't he? He was great. You do wonder what they've been through to accumulate that amount of trust to each other. Because it is still early days, and it's still he's still sort of finding his feet as Batman and everything like that. So you wonder how they've got that trust. So they must have been through a hell of a lot to trust each other that much. Because you don't know who he is. To trust someone that you don't know who he is, they must have been through some things.
Well, I think that is. I mean, me personally, I felt like it was somewhat implied in their conversations about the whole Maroney case.
Yeah,
because it seemed very much like the Maroney case took place and Gordon wasn't a part of it. It felt like the people around Gordon were all part of it, and Gordon wasn't really a big part of it. So it's sort of like Batman kind of suspects, oh, something's going on. Maybe something's going on with the police. Then the mindset would be, well, this cop wasn't involved. Everybody else was. Like everyone else of that level was involved, barring him. And I'm like, well, there's only two reasons that you kind of keep someone out of something like that. Either one, you know, they're not good enough to be on it, or two, they're too good to be on it. I.e., you know, they're too honest.
Morally good.
They're too morally good to be on it. So it was like, oh, you know, and I think, you know, from my obviously interpretation of Batman is for him to even kind of acknowledge you as an ally, chances are he's vetted you, he's looked into you, and he's and you know, he's Batman. He's probably proven himself to Gordon in enough of a way to be like, okay, yeah, I can trust you.
He does say that he says you're a good cop.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, I mean, going
great,
back to
great.
sort of Bruce Wayne, this is a Bruce Wayne who hasn't figured out that other persona of his yet. He is just the Batman, and that's represented by the fact that of how much time he is Batman in this movie. That I thought I loved. He is in that suit and that character because that is him. Bruce Wayne is the alter ego, and he hasn't figured out that relationship yet. He's not interested in Wayne Enterprise and stuff like that. And, you know, he's really just interested in the business. That, I think, is something that will come, and that kind of persona. So, you know, here, he doesn't like going out. He doesn't like being seen by the press.
The same thing happened in the Dark Knight trilogy, wasn't it? The same thing happened in the Dark Knight trilogy where Christian Bale was like, just wanted to be Batman. And, you know, Michael Caine goes, you know, you've got to put a face out there. You know, you've got to be Bruce Wayne. And then he started helping Gotham as Bruce Wayne as well. So you had
I think with that, I think maybe for me it kind of happened a bit too quickly in the Dark Knight films, because it was literally like, okay, you know, he comes back after, you know, being with, you know, Ra's al Ghul and that. He comes back from the League of Assassins. I'm not calling them the League of Shadows. He comes back from the League of Assassins, and then he essentially is like, oh, I don't really care about being Bruce Wayne. And, you know, he, like, Rutger Hauer's character, he's like, yeah, you do your thing. You have the business, right? I'm chilling. And then by the end of that film, he's like, I'm going to be Bruce Wayne, you know, and he fires him and he buys the hotel and he does a whole bunch of things, right? He, like, settles in to being Bruce Wayne and Batman really, really, really quickly.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, they're two very different movies. You got to understand.
They are.
Batman Begins is a superhero movie. So it follows the superhero tropes of what a superhero movie does. This is a film noir from the get-set, hence the voiceover, hence the detective work, hence the dual partnership with them. They picked a very specific way of telling the story through the lens of film noir. And that's why it doesn't spend much time with Bruce being the Bruce Wayne persona. You know what I mean? Because they specifically were like, this is Batman, we're concentrating on the investigations part, it's solely a crime thriller here. You know what I mean? Many people could argue, but the Dark Knight. But the Dark Knight is very later on, and Batman's in it for 15 minutes. So, you know what I mean? It's not, that's clearly not a superhero movie. You know what I mean? Just like this one is, but it, you know, it's kind of crossing genres here because it's very focused on the film noir side, very focused on the detective side. So to go into the other facet of Bruce's character and life would pull you out of the actual story that they're trying to tell, because you don't, when you watch like a film like Zodiac, they don't throw in all this extra filler about they keep you on the case. You know what I mean? And that's a 3-hour-long movie. They keep you on the case. And that's kind of the angle Matt Reeves was going for. I do think maybe if they did a sequel, they could expand that persona and not make it so much a film noir movie. Because another argument about why some people don't like this would be, you know, Joe didn't connect to it because he just doesn't like yet another version of Batman. But, you know, I really do think this could have easily fit into the Nolanverse. very easily. Forget the fact that we don't have Christian Bale and all of that stuff, but it's a story that I think could have easily fit in after Begins as a year 2, very easily. You know, and you wouldn't have even thought about him, the whole Bruce Wayne thing, because we got that first movie. You know what I mean? That has established all of that.
Uh-huh.
We don't need to concentrate on all of that. But what Matt Reeves did, he did something very bold with this movie. He was like, I'm going to make a crime thriller. I'm going to make a film noir. Okay? We've never seen Batman actually detect on screen. And that was the pull. And that's what made this film and version of Batman very different to all the other ones. Because there's a little bit of him doing detective work in Batman Begins, but it doesn't dictate the movie, if that makes sense. But that's my 2 cents on.
Yeah, they got a little bit of it in The Dark Knight where he's trying to figure out the bullets in the brickwork and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's very minimal.
And plus, like
you say, in this film, it's like he hasn't even figured out the need. There isn't even like a need for him to be Playboy Bruce Wayne. It's just literally, look, it is like, you know, Project Gotham or whatever it is that he has in his journal. You know, it's like, this is my life, this is my mission. Like I say, even when he's not in the bat suit in this movie, he is Batman, period. There is no sort of like, you know, Bruce Wayne. It's like, okay, yeah, you know, Alfred calls him Bruce, and, you know, when he's out in public, like one time, someone will call it Mr. Wayne, but he is Batman. There is no sort of Bruce Wayne at this point. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to, future movies where he kind of gets into that. Like I say, maybe not as quick as it happens in the Nolan films, but this idea of, okay, well, I need to have this public persona so that, you know, people aren't wondering what I'm doing.
Keep it separate
in the morning and all this kind of stuff.
But it really depends.
You know, but yeah, I just like the fact that in this movie,
it really depends.
There is no Bruce Wayne per se. You know?
It really depends what they're planning on doing moving forward. Maybe they like the detective version, and maybe that's what they're going to do each film. You know, you never know. I don't know what Matt Reeves is thinking. I mean, I don't see how that fits with Mr. Freeze, personally, because I know Matt Reeves wants to do Mr. Freeze next. But then, you know, like, I didn't expect us to get this film, you know. And this is the other reason why I like this movie.
Yeah.
They gave me the Riddler film I always wanted. Because on Zito's Gang, years and years ago, when we were talking about, what would you do with the Riddler? I was like, make it like fucking Zodiac killings. I was like, just have it like a film noir. I personally wanted him to be working in the police department, maybe forensics or something, you know, kind of like what they did in Gotham kind of thing, where he's like working for them and etc. So he's in.
I was going to say that actually later,
where he's in plain sight, because I like that, you know, and that too adds to that kind of genre. But, you know, still...
so how good a detective is Batman that he's in plain sight and maybe can't see him straight away? As opposed to just someone he can't see.
Yeah. But then I totally love what they did here, because they kind of made him a creepy monster, man. You know? They really made him like a really creepy monster, and I really like that. I'm not going to lie, a part of me did miss the traditional, you know, cat, twirly-whirly cane. But you know what? That's fine, man. That's fine. Because, like, realistically, if he's someone from an orphanage and he was meant to represent the poor, he wouldn't have the money for the flashness. Unless he stole something, you know, and he's not stupid to get caught and do that kind of thing just yet. So, I don't know, maybe further on down the line. They didn't kill him off, so...
I think I loved the parallel, like, the parallel that they put both as characters and both as in the actual cinematography of it, the parallels they put between Batman and the Riddler, because it's like, you know, the first time we see Riddler, actually physically see him, he literally just pops out of the darkness, right, and he commits a crime. The first time we see Batman, he pops out of the darkness, right, and commits a crime. Okay, for varying different reasons, but they are basically opposite sides of the same coin. And the way that they were displayed to you shows that, and I was like, I'm feeling this. I got
to talk about Batman.
Do you think that was a little bit
darkness? I got to talk about this real quick. But when Batman comes out for the first time, it was real cool. But I was kind of like, "You're a move, creep. You're coming with me." It was RoboCop, man. Now, the first time it happened, I was like, "That's cool." All right. But the second time it happened, I was like, "Oh, come on, man! You can't keep doing this because I'm just gonna think RoboCop." But you know that was a minor thing. I enjoyed it.
Two parts to him in the darkness. So the first part is where at the beginning when they're establishing the fear that he has over the criminals in Gotham.
Yeah,
oh, that was good.
The way they portrayed Gotham, for one, super dark, super miserable, no hope. I think it's the best version of Gotham we've had on screen.
Great place to live.
And the fact that, like, when the spray can goes off into the shadows and stuff like that, it's like, I'm not going to go get it. I'm not going to risk it because the Batman might be there. And the whole point is, you know, he can't be everywhere, but everyone thinks he is everywhere. And the way they represented the darkness and that fear, that was superb. It's not been done as well in any movie. The best it's been done previously is the animated series. But the way they represent the darkness and the fear, just phenomenal. But I love the fact that he is both silent and has a presence. So when he wants to, he has a clunking footstep. It's like cowboy spears on his boots almost. Like ka-ching, ka-ching. And it's the fear of something coming out of the darkness and that sound, the anticipation. But then other times he's silent. So like when him and Gordon are at like the orphanage and stuff like that, he turns around and he's gone. So he uses those things to his advantage. I thought the suit was fantastic as well. I really loved the suit. He looked big in it, but it was all about stealth and agility. His Batman, where obviously Ben Affleck is, you know, he was like freaking tonk. And
was he that stealth though? Was he that stealth?
Considering he's in year 2, I think it was the right balance. I think
because for me he took a hell of a lot of gunfire.
Yeah, he did. He did. There was a lot of that. If you
think about it, you look at the moments when he took the gunfire. You know, it's like, okay, when he first walks out, it's a street gang, so he takes a small little tiny amount of gunfire. Every other time he takes gunfire, it is arguably quote unquote professionals. He's like, you know, mob men or, you know, police officers who were shooting at him. So when he's taking gunfire, then, you know, even at the end, he was taking gunfire from a band of basically a militia. Right? Yeah. So he's the you have to kind of, to me, you kind of have to take into account who is shooting at him for how he's taking gunfire.
Yeah.
Now,
like you say, he's starting out, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's going into it prepared, isn't he? Because obviously the suit is armoured. He knows that even, like you say, maybe at his best, he's not going to take on 8 guys with guns and not get hit. You know, like you say, I you know, when Lee, when you first mentioned, I think of the animated series where literally all the guns are going off, and because it's animated, Batman is literally ducking and diving and does not get hit once because his outfit is basically, it looks like it's, you know, made of cloth. You know, where this, it's like, well, look, there's no way I can take on 8 guys with guns. And exactly. and not get hit, you know. So the suit is on. So I appreciate the fact that yes, he's sort of prepped. He was not like just standing there going, "Oh, come!" It's not like Superman, you know. It's like, "Oh, come on, and we'll just, you know, fire your guns and not take any hits," sort of thing. It was just kind of like, well, yeah, it was his defense, and he knows these.
Yeah, and the technology.
He was moving and hitting. Yeah, and he's hitting other people while he's getting hit and that kind of stuff. So it's not like he was. I didn't feel like he was just like standing there purposely taking hits.
No, he was using. Yeah, like he was using the suit to be able to fight somebody else off. So he was using it as part of his combat skill. Yeah. I think the technology was great for the film in terms of like the contact lens and the camera. I thought that was great. I loved that. I mean, the Batmobile, the sound in that cinema when that Batmobile came.
You know what?
Mental.
Am I the only one who, when that car revved up, right, and everyone was looking at it, you see the Penguin and you see everyone looking at it. Am I the only one who was like, the car's talking to you, the car's saying, "You got about 5 seconds, and then I'm coming."
Yeah. I thought I was watching 4D because it's like I felt it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it was incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought, are we in like 4D episodes? I swear I felt like wind coming up. When that revved up, it was like that.
No, that was just me next to you going, damn.
Well, to be fair, I didn't feel it quite as much the second time. So
it could have been me, yeah, exactly. Me just exhaling. All right, let's talk about some of the other performers because we haven't even touched on Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle. So
fantastic, hands down.
What a performance, right? Every scene she was in, she was top. So Neil, tell me your thoughts about Selena Kyle.
Selena, she was epic. I mean, the thing is, all right, so I must temper my review of her because, one, she was epic. However, the last time I've seen a live-action Catwoman in a film was Anne Hathaway, who, as brilliant an actress as she is,
she was not Catwoman.
Didn't do shit as Catwoman. She didn't do nothing as Catwoman. Like, it was... And that's not on her. That's just, the film, the world that was presented. Here's a Catwoman. So I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. Zoe Kravitz, every moment. And it was like, and maybe this is I don't know, maybe this is it might be a negative thing, but I saw the comics that she was being pulled from. I saw, this is like, the year one Batman, Frank Miller comic. I was like, that's Selena Kyle. And I was like, everything, the way she dressed, some of her outfits were literally ripped from the page. And I was like, yeah, this is Selena Kyle. I see what you're doing. I'm here for this. I'm here for this. But it's bad because I know I'm going to praise every character that we speak about. Robert Pattinson was the worst person in this movie.
What?
Robert Pattinson was the worst person in this movie. But he's the worst person in the movie, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's just setting the bar of how good every other performance was, and Zoe Kravitz was definitely a product of that.
Did you know that she voiced Catwoman in the Lego Batman movie?
Yes.
No, I did not know that.
So she'd actually already played the character once before. A little bit of trivia. And she also played Mary Jane in Into the Spider-Verse. So she's done a lot of voice work in the superhero genre. Any other thoughts on Zoe Kravitz?
I think Neil.
Echo what Neil said, man. Nothing to add.
I think she's only going to get better because, she's just starting out as Catwoman. So I obviously believe we will see her again because she was so good. But she's only going to improve. Could have done with seeing more of her. To be honest with you, in action.
I must point out one other thing, right? Because we're probably not we may not jump into that as it obviously huge spoiler. But good God, giving her the backstory, right? Of who her parentage. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure, I have no doubt that Matt Reeves was just sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know if the guy smokes or not, but I know that's a cigar moment. He was just like, they were coming up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring this in," and he was just like, "Let me just take a cigar, take a little moment, and embrace my greatness for putting this in."
I did feel their final goodbye maybe was a little bit long. That bike scene.
We followed them bikes for ages.
So when I watched that, I just got Fast 7 vibes. I was just like, I just, they follow each other and then they split off and go in different directions. That's all I had in my head. So that was a little bit long.
There was a Twilight moment.
But yeah, she was fantastic in it. And look, we've touched on Colin Farrell and the Penguin. Just fantastic. It just, all the prosthetics were there, and he put it on sort of like that New York gangster vibe, but he just played it so well. And I think a lot of that was taken out of some of the later comics and like the game where he's sort of like just like an arms dealer, and he's not like this super main villain of Batman's, but he's just got his fingers in all these different pies and he's kind of aware of everything that's going on. And I will love to see more of him because he's supposed to have his own spin-off as part of the HBO Max and the Batman sort of like genre that they're going to bring out. There's a GCPD one. There's going to be stuff with him. So he was just brilliant. We haven't spoken really about.
Was I the only one who's laughing my ass off when he actually waddled like a penguin?
Yeah. What about Andy Serkis as Alfred? What were your thoughts?
I can't really give him high praise because he was barely in it, and he did good with what he was given, but he was barely given anything.
Yeah.
But I think I have to point out there's a lot of backstory for a lot of these characters that is visual.
Yeah.
So like Alfred's got some dirty scar on his face and he walks with a cane and a limp. You know, the Penguin, dirty scar all up on his face, right? We'll get to him, but you know, Carmine Falcone, right? John Turturro. Yeah. Like even though he was given, you know, he got his face scratched up by Selena, there's a part in it where he already has like 3 scratch marks on his face. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing this, and I'm like, you're putting backstory visually on screen and not saying anything about it. So you're seeing these characters have had, you know, they've had a history prior to us meeting them.
Yeah, yeah. Other parts of the movie I really...
We did talk about him being a bodyguard, you know, when he was in the hospital bed, and he said, you know, I was supposed to protect them. So it's like making reference to actually more of a bodyguard than a bodyguard, you know, which is the first time I, you know, wouldn't see Michael Caine.
No, and in the prequel novel, it does go into the fact that Alfred did train him to fight, and then basically Bruce Wayne goes off and he basically goes to all these different countries to go to the best schools in the fields that he wants to study. And then in each country he goes in, he masters their martial art, basically. So it's not all just Alfred. But that was done, again, a lot in Gotham, in terms of him as my kind of a bodyguard and teaching him how to fight. So I thought I think this Alfred was quite similar to that one.
No, XSAS or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Other parts of the movie, you know, that I really enjoyed was the fact that...
Sorry.
Oh, go on, Neil.
Sorry, forgive me if you interrupted, right? Because I have to point out, because we haven't mentioned it yet, that if Paul Dano doesn't get a motherfucking Best Supporting Actor nomination, I ain't saying he used to win it, but if he doesn't get a nomination, I ain't never watching the Oscars again.
Speaking of the Oscars,
he was wild. Like from the kind of like 3/4 of the film, we never see his face. That he's in 3/4 of it, we never see his face, and he conveys a level of terror that isn't really forward in anything else. Right? The closest to it would arguably be Heath Ledger's Joker. Right? Arguably Heath Ledger's Joker, but he is just the way he speaks, his movements. I said the way he mirrors Batman in a lot of his movements, you know. And then when we do finally see him unmasked and we see him walking around, the way his conversation with Batman, his conversation,
that's a great scene.
Everything about him when he's there, and it's like, even like to me, it was like even the way he's speaking when he's speaking to Batman, it's like, I'm like, is he trying to confuse Batman, or is he trying to confuse me as an audience member in the way he's talking? Because he's like, oh, you know, we did it, we did this, and it's like, oh. Acting like they were a team, and in my head I'm like, are you trying to basically say that? Are you basically trying to convince the police that you and Batman were in it together, or are you just, it's a delusion in your head? And then when he kept saying Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, I'm like, are you telling Batman that you know he's Bruce Wayne, or are you pointing out that you didn't get Bruce Wayne? Like, because he switches it at one point, and he's like, oh, you know, Bruce Wayne is the only one we didn't get, right?
Yeah,
and
like, that's when Bruce Wayne realizes he's not talking about him, because he thinks he knows who he is.
He doesn't. And he's like, oh, he doesn't know, and I'm like, oh, cool. That's Batman was like, oh, you don't know. That's like, cool. I can act different now.
Yeah.
When he was in the cafe, I thought, to be honest, he looked like a naughty schoolboy. When he was in the cafe. Yeah. He looked like about 12. He had his glasses on there with a little cheeky smile, and just thought, you know, well, you've been late again. There we go. You know, it's like, I just thought that. And when he was talking to Batman, again with that voice, it reminded me of the guy from The Bodyguard. No.
Right, okay.
Do you remember the guy that was writing letters to... it reminded me a little bit of that.
I think for me, as much as I enjoyed this Riddler, it did feel it was this version of the Dark Knight's Joker, just in the way that the character was. You know, he was that little bit crazy. He wasn't so just anarchy. Obviously, he had a point, and he was very specific in who he wanted to target. But he had very mirror scenes, like, again, the prison scene. So with the other Batman, obviously they're face to face. There's no glass between them. This one there was. So it did create, something slightly different. But I think the reason he wouldn't get a nomination is probably because it seems like very similar beats to Heath Ledger's performance and the fact that he won the Oscar for that. But look, it's not to say the movie didn't have its failings. I think that
the finale was
everything seemed really grounded about it, except for when the flooding happened. And then what that did for me is it took it from being that film noir to being that big budget superhero movie.
Spectacle.
Yeah, because it was, then it was all special effects and stuff like that. Now, that's not to say that storyline doesn't exist, because it does. Gotham being separated from the rest of the world, it is something that happens in the comics and stuff. But it just is not something I expected from this, watching all the way up. So that kind of took me out of it a little bit. And yeah, it just the tone seemed to shift slightly then. And probably that's maybe the tonal shift. It's showing that it's going to be going into the sequels, that we've kind of done this film noir bit now, and now we're going into a little bit more mainstream. Who knows? There was a couple of slightly weaker performances. Jamie Lawson as Bella Rao, the mayor candidate. It was kind of there or thereabouts. That wasn't necessarily a strong performance or a strong character that you felt like Batman's going to put his life on the line for. I know it's supposed to be more the principle than the person. But I'm wondering whether that would have worked out better as that being Harvey Dent and him trying to save this person who then later becomes a villain. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's where the pacing issue just comes in for me at the end, because after he visits him in the prison, it goes to like this kind of very big scene. But it was, I did question about it, like the Riddler's purpose of this movie was to kill all these people, blow up the Gotham, and kill the mayor. He kind of did everything he wanted to, except get to Bruce Wayne and get the mayor killed. So, as much as Batman has been chasing him throughout this whole movie, he doesn't really stop him. Do you know what I mean? It was just there's this detective and he's following him. He's trying to establish, but although he's doing all this detective work, he never gets ahead of him at any point to stop him. He's always just playing chase. So actually, why is he the world's greatest detective? What did he figure out? The bombs went off. He didn't stop anything. So actually,
I think,
how is he the greatest detective in this movie? What does that portray? Because he didn't figure out who he was. He literally, they found his apartment because he shot through a window, and then the police, then a witness saw him going to a cafe, and then they arrested him because a witness saw him. So, what did he do?
There were, you're right in that, but I think probably the easier people will put it down to it being, he's in year 2, so he's not there yet. But there were aspects of it. So, like, the moment when he's walking through the first crime scene, when he's walking through it, and you can see the police photographer is just taking pictures. The crime scene photographer is taking pictures. And then it's like, automatically, she kind of, like, follows his lead, because he walks up to something, and he sees it, and then she's like, what the fuck are you looking at? And then
takes a picture,
like, oh, shit, I got to take a picture of this. And he just like, and it's like, she starts following his lead, and it's like, he is there, just by his presence alone, is, like, assisting and aiding them in their solving it. His, the quickness of him solving the riddles. I mean, anybody could solve those riddles, really and truly. It's not hugely difficult, but the fact that it was so the speed at which he was solving these riddles versus everyone else in the room, or everyone else with access to these riddles solving them. The only one that upset me was, I'm like, when everybody was like, oh, flying rat. And they were like, oh, bird, it's a stool pigeon. I was like, I get that. I get that they were trying to emphasize that. But in my head, I was like, flying rat. Rat rhymes with the creature that you are dressed up as, right? A rat kind of looks like what you're dressed up as without the wings. But you flew off and went to stool pigeon. I was like, a whole pigeon You got the whole vision, right? I'm like, how did you get there? How did that? Because they focused on it, I was like, have I fucked up? Have I got this wrong? Right? I was saying that. Am I thinking I'm smarter than I am? And then when it eventually got there, and I was like, how did you not solve that?
Yeah.
Right? So that was slightly disappointing because I was like, okay, yeah, you needed that to extend the movie to follow the plot lines that you were going down, but I'm like, that's not hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right? And I'm like, you don't need to be fluent in Spanish to figure that out. And I do like the fact that that Penguin cussed them out about that.
Yeah, exactly. The last bit that I'm going to touch on is right at the end scene where the guy's about to... Well, actually, there's two more points. So he's about to kill
Batman.
Catwoman, and he charges himself with the adrenaline. I thought that was fantastic because obviously
that was magical.
He had the bit in his suit to allow him to penetrate it, so he had that there set up to hit it. Here's my question: is that adrenaline or is that venom?
Oh, adrenaline, definitely. Because I think we've had two versions of Bane in Bat movies, and I was like, they're not going to bring that in. And also, by bringing that in, I can't believe I'm going to say this, you're taking the movie away from the realism that you've put into it.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to be adrenaline. Because if it's anything more than adrenaline, then what's the point of it?
Well, the whole point is obviously
you're also setting up a history. You're setting up a history there as well. It's like, okay, so if he's got access to Venom, he already knows it exists. How does he know it exists?
Well, he could have created it. So the whole point is he's created the Venom.
Maybe.
And then this other guy comes and steals his supply, and he injects it into himself on a constant basis to make him stronger and faster, and it doesn't deal with the ramifications of what it does to his brain, and he becomes so he's maybe not as a smart a Bane. I don't know, but it's nothing to say that it can't exist in this era because all Venom is a higher version of adrenaline, basically. So he could just it'd be something he's created because he is a scientist and he in that situation. So it could be. I just want to throw it out there. The other bit that we have is obviously right at the end in Arkham Hospital. I think it's referred to as Asylum there.
Yeah.
We have an unseen Arkham prisoner, which is Barry Kearne, and it has been confirmed that he is the Joker.
Yeah.
By Matt Reeves. So Matt Reeves has confirmed. They actually filmed two scenes.
It is that character, but he hasn't become the Joker.
Exactly.
Yet.
It's like the Joker, but he's not quite our Joker that we recognise at the moment. Now, he actually filmed two scenes with him, and Batman actually goes to visit him, this character, whilst he's trying to figure out who the Riddler is. So there's kind of a pre-existing relationship between them, but he hasn't reached the levels of where he identifies himself as the Joker. But he is there, and there's a possibility that he could turn up in the spin-off series with Colin Farrell and the Penguin and stuff like that. But yeah, he is in there in that universe. So what are your thoughts on that casting for Barry Kearne as the Joker?
Pressure is on,
right?
That's for sure.
Again, he is a brilliant actor from what I've seen him in. But I think exactly as it was said, the pressure is astronomical because you think every iteration of Batman as a film character has had a Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I gather, every iteration of a Bat character on TV has had a Joker or some form of Joker. So I'm like, this isn't, Paul Dano's playing Riddler, and we've had one on TV and we've had one in the film. So it's like, ooh, how are you going to deal with that? Oh, sorry, two on TV, right? But we're talking about the Joker. Everybody's expectation is you wait to see the Joker. Oh, it's Batman? I'm waiting to see the Joker. And the pressure that's there, because you've got Heath Ledger, you've got Jack Nicholson, and you've got, Jared Leto. And it's like, even, and now you've got Joaquin Phoenix, you've got 4. In fact, shit. Am I incorrect in saying that every person who's played the Joker in a movie has won an Oscar? I'm pretty sure
Nicholson, Leto.
Nicholson's got an Oscar.
Yeah. Ledger.
Yeah. So
Leto. Yeah.
Ledger. Yeah. So everybody who ever played Joker in a cinematic film has an Oscar. You're already in a tough crowd, tough position, and your film is very similar, very, very, very similar to, or the world of your film is very similar to the guy who won an Oscar for playing that character. It's too hard a road to step. I'm like, for me, the Joker should be a finale villain, not okay. We're gonna amp it up now, so we're giving you the Joker.
Yeah, he can't be the main villain in the second one. He needs to be a background character for another film at least. Otherwise, you are just repeating the Dark Knight trait, where you have sort of like a Riddler Scarecrow, and then you move on to the Joker. But look, I loved Cameron Monaghan's performance as Joker in Gotham. I thought what he did with that character in the world that they created was fantastic. So,
I liked all the villains. I liked, what's his name? Corey Michael Smith as the Riddler.
Gotham's an underrated show. If you haven't seen Gotham, you should go check it out. It's just so much fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. But the way the villains are written is just so much fun. It's really, really good.
I was like, Gotham gets no love from me.
No, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, I have to say. But what he did in that role, I think is probably something quite similar to what we might get with this Joker. But we'll have to wait and see. So, any final thoughts of?
So how do you put your own spin on it? That's the thing,
you have to make it your own.
It's very difficult. Like you said, there's been so many.
You know what? What the spin on the Joker is, and maybe this is probably from my own thing of still being someone who still continuously reads Batman comics, is he's evolved so much. Yes, he's still the Clown Prince of Crime. He's still crazy as shit, but he is a gangster. He is a criminal boss, and whether his end goal is to blow up a city or his end goal is to control that city, it's, we've seen I just want to blow up the world and then, smoke a cigarette in the ashes. We've seen that a lot. I want to see a Joker who's like, I want to be the ruler of chaos. I want to be in charge of obviously there was no way to address it due to Heath Ledger's, tragic passing, but the way the Gotham winds up when it's on lockdown, when it's separated from the rest of the world in The Dark Knight Rises, that whole courtroom scene, I know it was supposed to be the Joker, that is what we need, Gotham is cut off from everything. It's pure anarchy. It's pure chaos. But everyone knows the Joker's in charge.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we've got now. So obviously it's separated. All the bridges are down. It's going to Falcone, who was basically ruling Gotham, had his control of everything. He is gone now. So now it's a power grab. So they're going to have all these different fractions within Gotham where all these people are going to start rising up and taking their own piece. So I think that's pretty much where we're going to be headed towards with the series. But any more final thoughts on this movie?
The best image for me in the film was where Batman is helping the people out, and he's got the flare lit, and the lighting, and he's got his hand out for the people. That was just an awesome image. That was like that just stuck in my mind.
And the scene where he comes out of the elevator and he's fighting in the dark, except for the gunfire.
That was magical.
My word!
But that actually ties in both of what you and you yourself, Ken, and Yuli mentioned. Both actually bring up my negative points on the Batman. One is that, and I was having a discussion about this yesterday, and I said I can't judge it too harshly because Frank Miller is responsible for both of these two references I'm going to bring in. There was aspects of Batman fighting which reminded me so much of Netflix's Daredevil TV show. And that, like, him going through the hallway trying to get to Falcone is... I was like, oh, that just reminds me of the hallway fight in season 1.
Yeah.
Right? So that, I was like, yeah, but that is based on Frank Miller's version of Daredevil. Mm-hmm. This film is, in part, based quite heavily around Batman Year One. Mm-hmm. So, which is also Frank Miller's writings. So I see it coming together and I say, okay, yeah, you took Frank Miller's establishment and put that in. So one thing I kind of, it rubbed me a bit the wrong way because I felt like you've just taken what Daredevil as a TV show did and just expanded it to a larger audience with a different character. Because there is still going to be a number. If you don't have Netflix or you've never bought it, if you're not a big comic book fan, chances are you've never seen Daredevil. So what you saw in The Batman will be fresh take to you. But that was something that kind of, it did rub me the wrong way. And with the whole, the torch, the flare, there was one part of that whole scene, I kind of feel the movie did struggle with that whole set piece. Because I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, your city's flooding. Who the fuck made the right decision to put you in an arena that is downwards?
Downwards, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because when everything broke and then all the water started flooding in, the first thought in my head was, you don't need to run to higher ground. Yeah. And then I saw all the water cascading down the freaking the steps in the ceiling to where everybody was positioned. And I was like, who the fuck made that decision? Right? I was like, who in the right mind decided, we're gonna sit, the water's flooding and we're gonna go to the lowest point of the city. Yeah, like that upset me a bit.
All right, any final thoughts on The Batman? Then we'll go around and give our scores.
I think anything we've not already covered, I think we covered pretty much.
Well, we've been talking for about an hour. So,
I did love John Thora.
Yeah, it was creepy. And I love the relationship between him and his father, and as a result, Bruce. I thought that was really good. That was really good.
Yeah. I think we need to...
And the score
was
phenomenal. Just say the score is...
Okay.
And I think there are elements of other Batman movies.
Yeah, there was definitely...
Well.
I got big sort of like Batman Return vibes in some scenes and stuff like that, with sounds and stuff like that. Yeah, but a fantastic score. Absolutely fantastic. I think we were all humming it as we came out. So
I think something that hasn't been mentioned is the fantastic job that Greg Fraser did on the cinematography. It was really, really well done. Considering he's up for Best Cinematography for Dune this year, I think, now that I've seen more of his work, man should get that Oscar. That's a double whammy for both Dune
What
and
Oscars do you think this movie could potentially be up for next year?
Cinematography, hands down.
Cinematography.
Could it be up for Best Picture?
No.
I don't know. I mean, we're very, very early in there, bro.
Yeah.
At present moment, the best film I've seen.
Because there's 10 films, right? There's 10 films.
Yeah.
And compared to something where Spider-Man No Way Home is big, loud, comic book type movie, I could see this type of movie being nominated for a best film of the 10. I could see it happening.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's in, but it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't make it.
Yeah, I'm with Neil on that one. And plus, it's too early days to be thinking Best Picture for this as well. But I don't think it's even in the conversation for Best Picture, mainly because of like the ending, being disjointed the way it is. Usually when they go for Best Picture, it's something that is very well made, at least, kind of thing. Not that this wasn't well made, it's just the ending has pacing issues. And, the disjoint towards the end finale is very evident. So, you know what I mean? That's not really something that would be enter the frame for a Best Picture category. Everything that you nominate is usually something that is at least a very solid, well-made film as a film. So...
Well, the Power of the Dog got freaking Oscar nominations, so anything's possible. All right.
I've not seen The Power of the Dog, so I can't really comment on that. I've heard very bad things.
Remember what you said about Twilight?
Yeah.
Remember what you said about not watching Twilight? You said other people watched it and you were like, that's not for me.
Oh, well, I
That's
was up
Power
for
of the Dog.
I was up for watching it because it was like nominated, but I just haven't.
It's one of those that it's on
everyone's
Netflix. So
feedback.
it'll be one of those that you watch at some point. But The Power of the Dog. Don't look up. They were nominated for this year, so who knows what's possible. But okay, so let's go around the room. Let's get our final scores for the Batman. Alex, what was your score?
Honestly, when we discussed when we first came out, I was a 9.5. I think at the moment, obviously, I still need, even though I've seen it twice, I do need to see it more times, so it could change. But I think I'll stick with a 9.5 for the moment, because obviously I've seen a lot of the other Batman films many more times than this. So before I can sort of fully settle in terms of rankings and stuff, I think I did see it a bit more. But yeah, I think I'll go with my initial gut and go 9.5.
Cool, Lee.
As a Batman fan, it hit all the spots.
For me, it would be 7.5. I've only seen it once, so that might change when I see it again. So I'd say 7.5, maybe 8.
Okay, Sash.
Solid 8.
Cool. Neil?
I've struggled with this, but I'm going to stick to what I said. It's a 9.5. Even with all of its flaws and faults, and there was one horrible thing in that movie, but, that's just my own preference in that horrible thing. It's still a 9.5.
Yeah, that was my...
I think that's for me, for me, there's a lot of personal preferences. Yeah. Like, there was a few things that, for me personally, I maybe would have liked to have seen different. So that's why, I say as a film, great film, but that's just me personally.
That's what it's about.
Because, I look at it...
I'm the same.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, right, for me, I'm like, how would I judge this film if I'd never seen any other film that involves Batman?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that dramatically changes the score. And I'm like, how would I rate that? How do I rate this film in comparison to every other film that I've seen that has Batman in it? And I'm like, it's got to stay where it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my initial score was a 9.5 when I first came out of cinema. Having thought about it more and how much the Batman character has on the impact of the actual story outcome, I've dropped it down to a 9. Because as much as this is about him being the world's greatest detective, his detective skills doesn't lead to a resolution in this movie. So that is why it's dropped out. As an enjoyment, then for me, it's easily a 9. But, it's all subjective, because if I think about No Way Home and how much I enjoyed that movie coming out of it, it's just different, because that relies on nostalgia and everything else. This is an isolated world, characters we're familiar with, but introduced in a new way. So, if anything, it's kind of in between. It'd be a 9.2, but I'm because of the impact of it, I've shifted slightly down to a 9.
No.
This is the beginning as well, isn't it? That's the thing. It's like he's obviously got future plans. So this is like the first stage. So it's very difficult as well, because he's put stuff in this movie where, he's going to tell a story and it's going to continue into the next one. So it's difficult to, all those things included.
But I think as well that that's probably just the problem with big budget filmmaking is there always has to be an inroad for a sequel, because it's probably written into the contracts. It's like, you must create an inroad to a sequel.
Yeah, there's very, very few films now they make without the anticipation of the sequel, because it's all about the franchise at the end of the day. So cool.
Even when they try and end the franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
Alien 3. They were like, we done.
Right, well, thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen, on today's podcast. Let us know your thoughts on the movie in the comments. What were your favourite parts? What were your favourite performances? What worked? What didn't work for you guys? We will do a sort of like ranking the Batman movies in a future episode. We're also going to do what's next for the Batman. We're going to cast characters and theorise about what we'd like to happen coming up. Anything else from you, gentlemen, before we go?
My man, Patterson, disappointed me with your physique, sir. I was expecting something a little bit more in line with, like, say, a middleweight or like a lightweight boxer. You know, it just to look like you're getting your body used to having to physically be out there night after night after night after night, right? Nobody's saying you need to look like, you know, Chris Hemsworth Thor, but, you know, that was the body of a man who's very sedentary.
You know who I'd like to see as Batman was Alan Ritchson from Reacher.
Oh right,
nah,
okay.
he looked like the guy who ate Batman.
But I think he would, because he kicked ass in Reacher, and I just thought, you could see him in the suit. He would be like,
nah, my dream pick is Guy Pearce. Back in the day, it would have been Guy Pearce.
I was going to say now. I was like, whoa, okay.
Not right now.
It's like Alfred now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber, please make sure you hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check out all our previous episodes on any major podcast platform. And thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, peace out.